Yeah, because you have to maintain your own sense of making it all right.
Yeah.
And then you mislead others into the space where you don't even recognize yourself anymore a lot of times. Yeah.
So who are you?
Who am I?
What's your name?
I'm Dylan.
Dylan?
Yeah. So my name's Dylan Moffett. I am a Texas native, actually.
Right.
Grew up in the Dallas area, very similar to James here.
Are you a Dallas fan, though? Like
in
Cowboys.
Almost every sports team that I give any cares about, I'm going to be a Dallas fan.
Really?
Which, Cowboys haven't been good since I was alive, really.
So you are a Cowboys fan. Well, this is over. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, see,
You're allowed to stay. I'm a Cowboys fan.
yeah, all right.
I'll just leave.
But I
Y'all
would say
can talk.
this. I would say this. If they lost, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
And if they won,
Yeah.
I don't really care. It's like if I'm going to watch a game, which I don't really even do anymore, I'm going to pay attention to the Cowboys as the one I root for.
Yeah.
But if they lose, it means really nothing to me.
I joke around. I barely even watch a lot of football.
So who would you claim as your team?
Yeah, right.
You just hate the Cowboys.
I tried to be a Houston Texans fan for many years. I lived in Houston for 18 years.
Sure, yeah.
And it was just
That went well, huh?
So hard. It's like, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Do something.
Uh-huh.
I'm from Louisiana, but I was never really a Saints fan because you might need
Really?
to edit this out, but I don't like the town.
Mm.
The town is just
Sure, yeah.
I know there's beautiful parts
Might have to edit this
and
out.
there's great history
Sure,
there.
sure.
It's a
Food
wild town.
is phenomenal, but it's just a dirty, dark.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
a dirtiness and a darkness there
Yeah, there is.
that I don't.
It's fun. I've been a few times, and it's fun, but it doesn't really scream, man, I can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
The town needs Jesus.
Mm.
I'll tell you that. But
Isn't that fascinating? There's places you can go, there's people you can be around. As much as you don't want to think about like the woo-woo new age side of things, we're all putting out an energy, right? One way or the other. I can walk in a room and I'm mad as hell about something, and you will know without me saying a word that that's happening. Same thing with places, locations. There's a collective. We're building something together as the humanity that is encapsulated in a place, and a lot of times, if you carry that darkness within yourself and the community around you carries it, it's going to be palpable when you go to a place.
well, and it's contagious. And I've always thought it was interesting. I'd love to get y'all's input on this.
Contagious. Elaborate.
It's
Like
interesting.
it rubs off on you?
How well? Watch this. When you look in Scripture, at the very beginning, in Genesis, there's multiply. Be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah,
Be
true.
fruitful and
Yep,
multiply.
yep.
Then there's a Tower of Babel. Nope, we're going to come together. And God says, guys, I said multiply. You know what? Now you speak in different languages. There's the nations. Multiply, multiply. There's something about that multiplying that's threaded all throughout Scripture. Even Jesus, he's discipleship happens in multiplication, not in grouping together. And when you look at the cities and the urban versus the suburban, when you look all throughout the United States, the places where there's most ungodliness and wickedness that's happening are in the places where there's multitudes of people compacted and gathering. So you got big towns,
Like higher concentrations.
the big cities. You have more. This is not a political issue. I think this is a spiritual issue. You have bigger groups of people together. You have more of the more evil and more wickedness takes place.
More pockets of evil.
Yeah, and then when things are spread out, you have more of the. You can even look at it as a political side. The bigger the towns, the more left they are.
Generally speaking.
Generally speaking,
Sure, yeah.
More conservatives are more spread out in the outskirts, and I think one reason for that is because darkness is contagious.
I see that.
I think there's influences on. People can influence other people. You know?
I absolutely agree with that. Now, a question I have in that space is it simply more visible? Because I know in a lot of rural places, there's a lot of artificiality that's encouraged, right? You are encouraged to conform to the place that you're in, because to be an outsider when there's not a lot of other people that are like you or that don't go along with the way things are supposed to be, I wonder if that's real or if it's artificial. That's a question. I don't know.
No, it's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point for sure. You know, and I don't. This is just a theory.
It's observation.
I don't.
Sure.
It's observation. I don't know how accurate all of this, and there's a lot of holes that one could poke.
You can definitely
poke.
You're gonna do some polka. You can definitely say the observation remains true. The sheer facts of it, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But you have, so we met first, Dylan, you and oh my
Brett.
God, Brett.
Yeah,
I was saying Brian. What's his name?
Starts with a B.
Yeah. Brett were at an Austin SHRM breakfast seminar.
SHRM stands for Society of HR Managers.
Yes, I don't know. I just call it.
Yeah, the
I work
SHRM,
for an HR company. I don't even know what SHRM.
It's HR related.
I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say it again. What is SHRM?
Society of HR Managers. I believe.
Society of HR
I
Managers.
believe.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's certifications that you can get through that organization. So, I went for networking and trying to, drum up business. And I met
Also the reason I was there, by the way.
I met this guy who looks like Jesus, and then his partner in crime there, Brett. And the things that you guys were talking about were just blowing me away. I was thinking, all right, this is what's needed Dylan, it's not just needed in business, it's needed back in the church. What you guys are talking about, I think, comes straight from Scripture.
You're right.
And here's the thing about the Bible. You can believe the Bible, you can not believe the Bible, but you can't deny the fact that it works.
Yep.
It just works.
You're right.
So, I mean, some of the things you guys were talking about is just basic human, what common sense.
It is, truly. In the particular session that you joined was conflict, how to do conflict well. And it was applied in the space of workplaces. Let me talk a little bit better like this. Is that good? You want me to restart?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. So that particular conversation was about how to do conflict better, right? But you can take that and apply it not just in the church, you can apply it in your personal relationships. Like we were just talking about why this podcast even exists, and it's to start dialogue, start conversations. Even what we just had as a small exchange there, the ability to disagree with each other, and I wouldn't even disagreeing with you, simply offering, a question. But the ability to disagree with each other is where new ideas are created. It's where innovation comes from. It's where we actually grow as people. If we only talk to people who think like us, we're only going to stay exactly where we are, right? And so that's one of the things that we applied in that space of the workplace. But to expand beyond that, there's this vision that I hold. And it is one where the places that we go to work, that we spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day sometimes, are a place where we find a sense of meaning, where we find a sense of community, where we find a sense of, I actually want to be a part of this thing. We're building something beyond myself. I'm making a difference in the world in a positive way, right? So I want to work with organizations that are very mission-driven, whether nonprofit or for-profit, doesn't really matter. And I want to help create a workplace where the people that work in that job want to come to work every day, and they're able to access their best self, and they're able to experience autonomy and put their work that is taking advantage of the skills that they've mastered over their lifetime and take advantage of them in the best ways possible. And I don't think a lot of places are doing that right now. I like to use the analogy of the orchestra. Okay. So you've been to an orchestra? You've been to an orchestra?
I used to play in an orchestra.
Did you? What instrument?
Well, when I was in high school.
Oh, like way back in the day. Well, still, what instrument?
Trumpet.
The trumpet.
I was one of those
part of the horns.
I was one of the brass section that always got in trouble.
Brass section. Was that a known thing?
Oh, the brass always. Trombones were the worst.
The brass had a lot of brass.
Yes.
I felt bad as it was coming out of my
We
mouth.
were crass.
The crass brass.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And we could kick your. No, go ahead. Continue.
Okay, so you've been a part of this, so this will even resonate better, right? When you're all on the same page and you are in sync and your director has you, director or maestro, what is it called? The person who's leading it, is guiding you into this perfect crescendo of music when everybody's hitting their notes at the right time. It is transformative. You feel something you might not have ever felt before, and you're transformed in a way. A lot of workplaces, I think in a lot of ways, try to function like an orchestra. You've got your different sections, your brass and your drums and your winds and the, I don't even know all the, you could name the sections better than I could. But it's like they're playing on different sheet music. It's like I've got a different song and you've got a different song and you're on a different cadence and you're on a different tempo. And what that leads to is, if you can imagine an orchestra playing in that way, sounds pretty terrible, even though each individual person might have the most amazing skill and strength at their instrument as possible. And so I want to help people get back on the same page. I want them to be playing the same sheet music in order to create that transformative music and to enjoy doing it, right? You probably did it because you loved doing it, to go in and play and be a part of that thing that was bigger than you.
Well, that's a cool way to put it.
Yeah.
It's something bigger than myself.
It is.
And my part would be missing if I'm not involved.
Not unlike how the Bible would describe the body of Christ,
Absolutely.
right?
And how many people, you mentioned business, how many people do you come across that feel like what they're doing in business is not adding anything?
A lot.
Yeah.
And whether that's because they're not being appreciated or because at the end of the day they could care less about, like, I've been in a lot of different jobs.
Yeah.
And there's times when it's like, if I wasn't here, maybe this gigantic corporation would sell less routers. I don't care.
Am I really a contributor?
What does it mean? Now, not to say that those are invalid work experiences, because within that space, as I started to transform the way that I saw it, it wasn't necessarily about the outcome of the job I was doing. It was about the relationships and how I was able to invest in the team that I was building with. And so you can find meaning and have something bigger than yourself, even if the end outcome might not necessarily be the most world transforming thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the body of Christ. How many Christians in churches, today's Sunday, how many Christians sat in the pew and asked themselves, am I really contributing to something?
True.
I mean, one of the things that concerns me the most about the church in America is how passive we are. And if we could help people understand, every believer in Jesus is gifted by the Holy Spirit to contribute. But it's hard to get people to understand that when our setup is, we have a few contributing, you're receiving. So, question. Statement first. Obviously what you and Brett are doing is, I think, is amazing, because you are bringing, I call it, you're bringing hope to business leaders and their people.
I might use that. That resonates.
Well, make sure you put my name on that.
I absolutely will, yes.
Use that.
TM Chad Barrett. Yeah.
I think you are, because I think there's a lot of people that come to work and they wish they loved coming to work.
Right.
And they wish that their bosses would help them or create a space where they love coming to work, where they feel valued, where they feel appreciated. You talked about conflict. Conflict is necessary in the workplace.
Yeah.
It's needed.
And you tend to find people go one of two ways on that, and I'll leave it at that. But yes, it is.
Do you think it's because because of personalities? Because, like, for example, my personality, where I would lean towards, I want to avoid conflict because I just want everybody to love each other.
Sure.
That's just my nature. But what I've learned is I want to voice a disagreement because I want to learn from you.
Yes.
You might say something and go, you know what? I'm thinking differently.
Mm-hmm.
And my nature would go, I'm not going to say anything because I want Dylan to like me, and that's just,
Yeah.
that's the weak part of my strength. But I've learned to say, you know what, Dylan, I think differently. Here's how I think. What do you think about my disagreement?
Yep.
Challenge me on that.
Which is a great way to do it, because you're inviting in a way that doesn't feel personal. And that's a skill you've had to learn, I'm assuming.
Learning.
You're still in the
Capital
process.
ING.
Wait. Hold on. Wait. Are you telling me you're not an expert?
I am an expert.
Oh, okay. Good. That's what I thought.
That's why I'm the podcast.
Oh, yes. As a podcast host, you didn't realize the prerequisite for being a good podcast host is you have to be an expert.
It was a pretty tough screening process.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, you told me about it. It sounded like pretty grueling
James,
stuff.
I would like to. Yes, you can. Show up Sunday.
I'm like, Chad's perfect.
Yeah.
So going back to what I said,
Yes.
I think you and Brett bring hope to businesses. Why do you do what you want to do, what you're doing? What makes you tick? What drives you to do it? When there are times, and I know there are, when there are times when you and or Brett together, you're like, man, this is tough. I don't know how I'm going to pay next month's rent.
You're not wrong.
Maybe I need to go into maybe I need to start putting
Go
my
back
resume
to a
out.
corporate job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those temptations are there.
Why do you go, no, I'm going to take the next step and keep going?
The answer to that question is big, and I'm trying to think of the most concise way to articulate it. You know what? Maybe I'll start with an answer to that question in a way that's more related to something bigger that we've talked about, which I have heard from James just a few minutes ago, from you. There were moments in both of your lives where you had a deep, necessary moment of transformation, where you saw the person that you were and the person you wanted to be, and you made the choice to go more towards that person you wanted to be, right? And for anyone listening who may not have heard those, in the short synopsis, you may have had multiple. I assume for you, that moment was the passing of your daughter, which inspired the name of this podcast, inspired your book. For you, it may have been a combination of, how openly do you talk about?
It's open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Combination of thoughts towards suicide, a breakdown of romantic relationship, a dependence on alcohol that you realize this is, for me, it was similar in a way of a breakdown of romantic relationship. So I've been married before, and got married pretty young. And about 2019, started to notice, oh, this is not actually as good as I thought it was. And there's a lot of, events that transpired that led towards that. And that was a moment of massive transformation for me, because as that relationship started to fall apart, I started to look at what were the ways that I contributed to this, and how have I been coping, surviving, not thriving,
right,
in life in ways that are actually making me not the type of person that I want to be. And so I went through a long process of starting to heal some of that stuff, and it's not done. And I'm still in the middle of it.
We're never not done.
right.
Ideally.
We're never done.
Ideally.
meant to
You're
say.
never not done. Never done.
We're
Yes.
never done.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. Double negative.
The
Yeah.
double negative is still
Cancel.
whirling around in my brain. And some of the big things that I came to see about myself, I see in a lot of men in our society. Now, women obviously have things that they want to work on too, but I resonate more because I am a man with the things that we struggle with as men. And then I see, I'm answering your question. I'm going to get there.
No, I like where you're going. Keep going.
Yeah.
He's doing the weave.
Yeah, I'm gonna, you know what? This is probably one of my greatest strengths, and I am in a rabbit trail, and I'll come back
That's
to
okay.
it. I think one of my greatest strengths is the ability to connect disparate pieces of information and insight
I love it.
into a
Storytelling.
single narrative of, this is how you can live your life differently because of these things that
Yeah.
we see. This is how you can change and become the person you want to be.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Thank you for saying weave. I feel like that's a word that resonates
It's a
with me.
storytelling weave.
It is.
Yeah.
And I've had to work on growing that storytelling ability, as you can see by my wayward nature. So we'll come back into.
Squirrel.
I think that our workplaces are such in which we have, so now I'm going to talk about masculine and feminine. So I talk about men, right? And I think generally speaking, as men, we carry more masculine traits within us. And we can go down a whole rabbit trail talking about that. But I'll leave it at stating that we see our workplaces are generally built to magnify and reward the masculine traits. Okay? And oftentimes, they're built to magnify and reward the unhealthy masculine traits of aggression, of shutting down completely emotionally, and eyes on the prize, you're going to drive, you're going to winning.
Yeah.
And I actually think that what we really want is to find the harmony between that masculine and feminine, right? And that's why when we think about the healthiest workplaces that we've ever been a part of, they're ones in which we weren't just eyes on the prize, focused on the aggression, trying to win in the business. We felt a part of something real with people. We felt like, I know my contribution and I know why it matters and I know how it's a part of everything else that fits in here. And this is a small subset of like what I would say is my philosophy and point of view in transforming business world. But my origin story of transforming my own self and masculinity has contributed to what I want to bring into the workplace and bring, in some ways, what you might call healing to the brokenness that we see in a lot of our workplaces today. Now, that's the internal. When I look externally, I see in a lot of organizations, I think you can boil down some of the challenges that a lot of places face to two things. And it's your incentives and it's your consequences. So what I mean by that is what drives most of our behavior. It's either fear of what's going to happen if I do or don't do a thing, or desire for what I want to get. Your motivations become your incentives, what you want to get, and your consequences for the behavior you might perform. And I think a lot of our workplaces incentivize the wrong type of behavior and they penalize the wrong type of behavior, such that the type of place that you want to be a part of, while they can state all their values on the wall, doesn't actually reward or put the consequences in place to reinforce those values or to reinforce the type of culture that they want to live. And a lot of times it's unseen. You don't know it's happening. You don't know that those things are happening because they're unstated a lot of times. Unless you can talk about financial rewards, and those are the easy ones to see, but I'm talking about more of the power dynamic rewards, the feelings of gratification, the feelings of winning. Appreciation, of winning, of there's a lot more ingredients into those
I know a lot
things.
of people who have left high-paying jobs because they felt undervalued.
Totally.
And they've taken 50% cut going to a job where they loved.
100%. And that's what I felt in my relationship, my romantic relationship.
Yeah.
I felt undervalued. I felt underappreciated. Yeah. I think a lot of men feel that in a lot of ways, right? And instead of expressing that healthily, we tend to think, well, in my case, I started to build resentments. And you see this happen in the workplace all the time. You start to resent the people that you feel aren't actually appreciating the things that you're contributing into the business in the way that you think that you should be appreciated. And all of that, we could go deep into human psychology and talk about our own sense of value and self-worth and all those things. But I'll pause there and allow for questions.
Well, those would be good rabbit trails to go to. I'm thinking
I create too many sometimes.
One thing I'm
loving it, so keep going.
I mean, one thing I've wanted to talk about on here with the right person, I think this may be the right time, is what is a man, you know? Oof. And that's not the transgender topic, you know. What is a woman? I'm talking about what is a man, because I think men. So I'll talk about me. Yeah, because I'm good at that.
We all are, hopefully.
I used to think, okay, a man is that strong, fierce. You're always pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, men are not to be emotional. Men are to be, you know, if you're sensitive, you're not really a man. You got to be strong and push that emotion down fight and bleed and fight more and the strong one and you don't need anybody else. But on the inside, huh?
That was me.
Yeah, on the inside,
a lot of men.
I'm the sensitive guy. If I had my wife, Melissa, here, I'm much more sensitive than she is. I'm more emotional
Example me on that.
Huh?
Example me.
Oh.
If it's putting you on the spot, then never
No,
mind.
no. I would love to get you. Let me think of an example. I ought to call her up.
Do you cry at movies?
Oh yes, I cry at
Does she?
movies. Not like I do.
Same with me.
There's things that I'll get choked up easy.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll look at her and she'll just look at me like,
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel anything? Oh yeah.
Did you have to work at that at all to
What do you mean?
allow that?
For me to allow that in me? Oh, absolutely. And the death of my daughter is really what changed a lot of it because I had to get used to crying in front of people. I used to do a lot of speaking, a lot of whether it's motivational speaking or church conferences or whatever, and then a lot of what my topic was on coming out of the anxiety and depression stuff, and which is another thing that men are not supposed to talk about.
Yeah, we're not supposed to have it.
We're not supposed to even have it.
Correct.
But and not that Melissa wouldn't tear up at certain things. She definitely tears up at certain things. But I will let things get under my skin that she doesn't. And I remember telling myself, man, I'm so weak. I'm not a man. Men are supposed, men have thick skin naturally, and men are supposed to just let it roll off your back like a water off a duck's back, right? And my wife is just it comes more naturally to her than it does to me. And I remember thinking in the first several years of our marriage, thinking, man, I think she's more of the man than I am in this in this marriage. But I'll stop there. And what thoughts do you have on that?
Fantastic question. I think that we can get there, and maybe a deeper question we can ask is, what are the traits that you feel are inherently masculine? So I think it's important to distinguish masculine, feminine, and man-woman, because we all can hold masculine and feminine traits inside of us, right? So when we think about what does it mean to be a man, often what we're saying is, what is the boldest exhibition of masculinity in the world? But I think we have to understand then, what is that? What are the traits that feel exclusively masculine to you?
The Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns. That's some of my favorite. Outlaw Josie Wells. Fistful of Dollars. I watched a Fistful of. You ever see?
Oh yeah, Fistful of Dollars. Yeah.
I mean that's that's man.
Okay.
When he's got his head
right. Yeah.
He's got that
scowl.
He's got that cigar.
Yeah.
And those Fistful of Dollars. He walks up to those guys that just pissed off his horse. He looks up and goes, my pony don't like that. You're gonna apologize. That's man. That's your answer. That's a man.
Well, I think that there's a lot in there actually that we can pull apart if you talk about the ingredients of masculinity. So that exact expression is one of deep confidence. I hear I know exactly who I am, and I know exactly what I can do to you in this situation, and I'm not going to back down because I know those things. Now, what that can look like in reality is it can look like sharing with another man, I'm going through something really hard because I'm so confident in who I am that your opinion of me isn't going to be negatively affected by this thing I'm going to share with you.
So you're talking about vulnerability.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I don't think vulnerability is inherently a masculine or feminine trait, but I think that the confidence that
behind
you carry to share something vulnerably is.
I think
absolutely.
It takes a ton of. I'm thinking about a person right now. I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm thinking of a person right now that I wish this person. Well, I would say she. And it's not my wife.
All these disclaimers are.
Yeah.
I wish she was confident enough in herself to be vulnerable because it would make her life where she is and in her role so much better.
Yeah.
But I love how you I think it just clicked for me is it takes confidence to be vulnerable.
It does.
So when a man is not comfortable being vulnerable, does it mean that he has low confidence in something, in himself, or
It's a great question. I would say so.
I think if you don't have the confidence to be vulnerable, then you're afraid of the outcome of being vulnerable. So you have a spirit of fear of what's going to happen if you're vulnerable. That's what I mean. That from me
Now,
never talking about stuff was because I was afraid of what would happen if
I think you're dead on with
if
that.
I told people things that they
You're
probably
afraid.
could assume anyway, or might even. I mean, obviously you can't hide alcoholism, but there are secrets you can hide. But if you're afraid of what the society, people in your family or friends are going to think of you, then you have a fear of vulnerability.
So,
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I go to let me put it this way, and I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah.
I go to a gym here in town.
Okay.
And on the front, when you walk in above the front doors, it says, "No judgment here." And I see that and I go,
yeah, right.
Man, who cares? That's the man. I got to act like man. No one's got to judge me on it. There's, these are guys in it. You ever seen Arnold Schwarzenegger work out in the gym? Can you picture him going, man, don't talk to me like that,
Yeah, right? Yeah.
So my muscles are bigger than you think, or what, if somebody's going to criticize him. You want Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone to say, man, please don't judge me while I'm working out. That's just so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the truth is, men are
people feel
scared
it.
to death of being judged.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize.
You're
mess
good.
Up your sound. I'm gonna mess
Hit
up
it.
your sound here. There's something before we move into fear, because I think that's an element of this here, and the opposite of that maybe. Never mind. It's not the opposite. It's how you face fear, which is bravery. But when we think about vulnerability, really quickly for a moment, what is that actually? Like, yes, it's popularized internally and emotionally by someone like Brene Brown, who advocates for the value of it, and I totally agree. And yet we have to also acknowledge that vulnerability is, in and of its definition, making your weaknesses available for attack. That is what...
Yeah, there's a big debate about
Yes,
vulnerability right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I don't think that vulnerability is... What's the word? That everyone deserves the same level of vulnerability. I think that there's an element of trust that
I would
people...
agree. That has to
is,
be...
Yeah, and that's where some of the confidence comes from. It's like, I know that you are a person with whom I can share some of these potentially weakness-exposing things about myself because you're not going to use them to hurt me. And actually, if you think even about a marriage, right? You have to do that. In order to love someone fully, you have to show them 100% of who you are.
Yeah.
And maybe not 100%, but as much as I think 100%, but I don't think we actually fully ever do that. It's
Probably
maybe why I
not.
caveated. So anyhow, but then if you think about the person that can hurt you most, is probably the one to whom you've been most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you do that because you develop trust with them. You develop trust with your spouse that I'm going to give you all of this stuff you can use to hurt me. And I'm trusting that you're not going to.
Do you think trust and confidence can be connected somehow? Meaning, if you and I are becoming friends, we're getting to know each other better.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
But there's some things that I may not want to tell you guys yet because
Rightfully so.
It's not that I distrust you.
Correct.
It's just that I don't know you well enough and trust takes intentionality to build. And I've put it like this with people. Trust is like a bridge, like a relationship bridge. And it takes intentionality to build that trust. And the thicker that trust is, the heavier the truth you can walk across to each other.
Wait, say that again. I'm having trouble visualizing that.
So think of trust between two people as a bridge.
It's a bridge, okay. Yep.
And so this relationship gets deeper. We're building trust with each other.
Yep.
And we can, there's ways
the
to
sturdier
do that.
that bridge becomes.
The thicker, the sturdier that bridge is, the heavier the truth that I can walk across to you, Dylan. I need to talk about something in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that trust helps me be more confident in myself to be able to do that, but also more confident that, hey, you're trusting me. There's reasons you trust me.
Yeah.
I need to be confident in who I am because I'm a trusted individual that I can receive whatever heavy truth you need to walk across that bridge to me. Does that?
Yeah, it resonates. There's two things I think about there, and both would be worth diving down deeply. So I'll throw them out at the highest level. And the first is that confidence, I believe, confidence is built through experience.
Okay.
So what that means is, you know, the person who's out there with false confidence, who's just pretending that they know the thing and can do the thing when they don't actually have any experience having done the thing. I think real, true, deep confidence comes from having gone through experiences before, which requires us to put ourselves in uncomfortable places to test ourselves. And I think that's where a lot of confidence is built. When we think about the trust element of it, then, and this is maybe the second part of what I think about here, it's very difficult to shortcut trust. Meaning, and I love your bridge analogy, if you're trying to jump across the river and come into someone else's space and like shortcut that trust when you haven't built the experience, you haven't taken the time to build the bridge, it can feel artificial, right? And so people, this is where you think about like a con man. I'm way all over, this is how I'm tying this in. You think about a con man, they try to build trust with you in a short amount of time, right? They're telling you things that they shouldn't be telling you. You're hearing a speech that doesn't quite, it's like, that's not quite right. So when you have those alarm bells going off inside of you, where your body is telling you, this is too fast, trust shouldn't be here yet, I think it's exactly what you're saying. We haven't spent the time to build it effectively. And I think it only comes through the experience of that intentional building of the bridge with each other. That's a very good observation. I love that.
So when you and Brett, what do you bring to businesses in this? I mean, do you help them learn how to build trust with each other, and how do you do that? Because I think you cannot have conflict without that trust.
Correct.
You know, I mean, mentoring someone, or the Bible talks about Jesus telling his disciples to go make disciples, and I can imagine the conversation. It wasn't that text doesn't say this, but this is just Chad's weird way of thinking. I think Peter going, well, how? And Jesus says, I just spent 3.5 years showing you how. Relationship and intentionality. You build your relationship. You love people, who they are, how they are, wherever they are. But you love them too much not to leave them there. So you're also intentional in sharing truth with them and guiding them and lead them. So if you have in any kind of mentoring relationship, discipleship in the body of Christ, or coaching at work or whatever, if you have the intentionality, I think this is what you're getting at, the intentionality without the relationship, you have an artificial, cold orthodoxy, if we're talking in the church, legalistic.
That's good, yeah.
Just do what I say. And how many bosses have we had like that? I've had a lot like that. I think that's common.
That's a great insight.
But if you have the relationship without the intentionality, you just have a buddy, and you're, where are you going with this?
This is the person you might have some beers with and go to the football game with, but like, and at the end of the day, and
that's fine.
Yeah, and those relationships are you can't have all deep relationships
if that's all the purpose is. But if we're at work or if we're at church, and the purpose is at work, like in my work, we got to connect with businesses to bring them HR support. So if I'm the boss and I am not, if I'm just throwing out, or if I'm just building a friendship, hey man, we'll just go to beer and we'll hire you, and you doing all right? You doing okay? And he sucks and all of that, but I was like, hey man, I believe in you. You can do this. Relationship, but no intentionality with it. Hey, we're gonna have to put you on a pip. I love you, and this is why we're doing this, because I believe in you. And here's the steps. It fails.
It does. Yeah. I don't know if there was a question in there.
There wasn't a question. Okay, all right. I was trying to go back. My question is, how do you
build trust?
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't know how to build trust.
Because I can take the formula, that's not the right word, framework that I will help an organization build trust through. And you can apply it in your interpersonal relationships. You can apply it in the church. You can apply it in whatever system, group dynamic, relational dynamic that you're a part of. The one thing I'll state is that I may not be an expert on this. I found some things that have worked, and there's plenty of people. I mentioned Brene Brown earlier. She has a great, she calls it the braving model for helping develop trust. And I don't even remember what the acronym stands for, but I see you have
braving.
Braving, yeah. If you can maybe type in and get the whatever that acronym stands for.
BRAVING.
BRAVING, yeah. But I think a lot of people have articulated, here's what you need to build trust. And the one thing that I've always wondered, and again, this is one of the great strengths I think that I can bring into a place is how. So you can know the ingredients, but then how do you actually put them together to bake the cake, right?
Yeah.
And so, here you go. So this is the braving model of trust, which includes boundaries, meaning respect for boundaries, and when there's unclear boundaries, it's okay to say no. Reliability, which means that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Accountability, you own your mistakes and you own your part in whatever it is. The vault, you don't share information you're not supposed to share. Integrity, you choosing courage over comfort. Ooh, I love the way that's phrased. That's good. Non-judgment, meaning that when you walk into the gym and you have that nobody judging you here, it's easy to say, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because we want to judge other people because that makes us
Don't
feel
judge
better.
me. I'm already judging myself.
Right. I am too. I'm my own worst critic for sure. And then generosity, which is that assumption of best intent, right? So this is one of many models.
And who came up with this?
This is Brene Brown.
Okay.
Who writes on vulnerability and trust and doing. She has a great book called, I'm totally blanking on it. Dare to Lead is the name of the book, and this is where she articulates that. It helps for workplace stuff.
Yeah.
I like to think about there's about 1,000 different authors that I take pieces and parts from, and then I'll pull that into the models I like to build. So we were on site with a it's like a mid-level management team. Brett and I were on site with them. This has been a few months ago now, and one of the things that was very clear with them was they didn't know why they existed as a team. They didn't have very clear articulation of what are you able to do as a team that you can't do outside of this connection with each other. They didn't have...
Now, would you say most teams are like that?
Probably, yes.
Because
it's a big miss.
But it's powerful when you got it, I can see.
Yes. They didn't have a clear articulation of authority, which meant you are empowered to do these things. You're not empowered to do these things. So when Y happens, you need to come bring that to the group with X level of information and expectations about the conversation that doesn't need to be had.
Yeah.
They didn't know the strengths of everyone else on their team. There was a few other things that they had as breakdown dynamics that they were experiencing. And we were brought in because this team was experiencing all these things, and they had expressed to their senior leadership team, we feel like we're wasting our time here. Look, can we just go off and do our own little jobs independently? And I'm going to tell you the end result before I kind of talk through the process that we went through. Okay. At the end of the day, working with this team, we went to dinner with them. No less than 7 times we heard a precursor statement of, this is a safe space now, right? And then they would share something that could be experienced as pretty vulnerable. This is something that might make me not look great if I were to share this in a work environment. Okay. But what it did is it unlocked discussions that this team had never had before. So within a day, we were able to take a team that hadn't really worked together, that didn't really know each other that well, and actually build this sense of we're safe together. So I say that to start out because I illustrate it can be done, and it can be done quickly. And there are sometimes personalities in the room that will make it much, much harder to do, and we have to take that into account. The first thing that we want to do is exactly what I talked about in the beginning. We want to align you around what is the reason we exist. So if you want to apply this in the church, if you want to apply this in interpersonal relationships, it helps to understand, what does having this interaction with us allow us to do that we couldn't do alone? That's the question you want to ask. That's the question you want to answer. We could take us sitting in this room, right? I've got some ideas about workplaces and spiritual beliefs and ways we function as men, and they are being sharpened right now because of this conversation with y'all. You're asking very good questions that draw new insights out of me. So I could articulate the purpose. One of the purposes of this conversation is such to sharpen the viewpoints that we have on the world in the way that allows us to leave here and go be more the people that we want to be, to have the type of impact in the world where people don't have to feel as alone. They can feel more connected. They can be a part of this conversation. So that's number one. I take that into an organization. It's let's align on the common purpose of why we're even here. And that does require you knowing each person's strengths. Like, what are you really good at that I'm not? Because you actually want a diversity of strengths on a team. You want a diversity of perspectives and opinions and experiences and personalities. Because if we're all doing things the same way they've always been done, you're going to have the same results. And, you know, sometimes that's good, but the world is always changing. So you have to be ready to adapt. You have to grow. You have to bring new things in and new perspectives in, and taking advantage of each other's strengths and knowing them and applying them in that way builds trust, because you know, I'm going to go to you when I need help fixing my technology stuff. And you're going to come to me when you need a marketing idea problem to be worked out. And these are gross overgeneralizations of strengths and skill sets. You want to get deeper than that. But the third thing that's really important to bring in a space like that to help develop trust is the idea of co-creation. One of the worst things that you can do as a leader in an organization is mandate, this is the way things are going to be, and have the people that are affected by that mandate not have any voice or input into it. Sometimes that is necessary, right? If we're talking speed, things have to be done fast. You don't want to dally in decision-making fatigue or decision paralysis analysis, whatever the terms are, right? So you have to be intelligent about where you apply this. But the idea of co-creation is it's the quickest way to develop buy-in to an idea or decision, especially if it's going to be a difficult decision. People feel a sense of ownership when they have influence. And so if you give them, there's a lot of other things. I think the last one I'll leave with when we talk about this idea of developing trust with people is it's alignment on priorities. So you hear the term silos in the workplace a lot, right? And that's essentially indicative of someone believes resources are better spent in the marketing department versus the sales department, or someone believes that, you know, any number of things are where silos develop, and often it is a result of misaligned priorities. So when you get a team aligned on this is the most important thing we can do, this is the second most important thing we can do, here's some experiments we can try to make those things a reality, and here's who's responsible for it, you generate a sense of, we've already had the discussions, we've had the disagreement, because to get to a place of clear priorities, I've had to have my opinion and you've had to have your opinion, and we've discussed it and agreed, or at least agreed to disagree, that this is the direction we're moving. I think about, have you ever been kayaking, canoeing out on the river, on the lake?
Oh, yeah.
It's a wonderfully immersive experience out in nature. And a few months ago, I was out with my friend in Arkansas. We were on the lake, and we had this discussion about who's going to be in the front of the canoe, who's going to be in the back of the canoe. Yep. And if you've ever been in a canoe, you know that the back person is steering and the front person is power. And because sometimes if you haven't done it a lot with a friend or the person you're with, if you don't really trust the person in the back to steer in the front, you're going to try and take a little bit too much of that steering power on your own. And what happens invariably is you start zigzagging all over the lake because you're trying to steer and your person in the back is trying to steer. And it works better when you understand, hey, I might have disagreed about me being in the back versus you being in the back. But once we've said, okay, I'm in the front, I'm going to accept my role and my position in the front and perform and execute in that role as best I can, and not try to do the things you're going to do because I trust you to do it. There's a lot of different elements, and the way that we generally will build a session to incorporate all of these things is actually really fun. We love doing it. But I see those as some of the most important ingredients that we can bring in a framework to allow a team to develop that sense of trust with each other. And I think you could apply that anywhere else you want to apply
sure.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something you said earlier that stuck with me, and I'm trying to remember exactly how you put it. But the way I took it as, we're human whether we're at home, and whether we're at church, or whether we're at work. But at work, as men, we tend to, I guess we probably do this at other places too. But we tend to think of work as a different place where I can't exercise all of my being. I have to limit and leave some off the side.
Yep.
One of those is vulnerability. One of those is emotion. One of those
Totally.
is trust. One of those is taking ownership.
Yep.
One
of those is spiritual. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine the amount of workplaces that don't allow, and for good reason, in some cases, because
there's some things
certain spiritual beliefs are inhibitive, perhaps, to
Yeah.
a workplace environment. So you understand why these rules were put in place, but continue your thought. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, I'm just saying one of the things that I've noticed, and I'm learning that. So I was in ministry, full-time ministry for 25 something years. Well, I mean that's all spiritual,
Yeah, right.
And it's learning to you have these deeper conversations with people and stuff. And then several years ago, I went into the corporate world, got a real job. I remember pulling into.
I hate that term.
Well, I remember pulling into my driveway one time with my kids, and one of my kids did, Dad, how come you don't have a real job? Because we were just with some of my friends, and they're talking about their job. I was like, yeah, I guess I don't, do I, son? Or whatever. And, we had a big laugh about it. But I'm learning, capital ING, learning that people have the same needs in the workplace. I work in Insperity. People in my office, and I love them. I work with some of the best people. They have the same human needs and need to have certain discussions that we're having here.
Yep.
That I have with people in my church, or that my family may have. I mean, do you come across things like that with some of the businesses that you've how have you encouraged or equipped or awakened people to see that necessity?
First, let me comment on the fact that I noticed you did this. You caught something I said early on and were able to hold it in a salient question for the entirety of what I was talking about, which was probably 10 minutes long. That is a very impressive skill, and I appreciate that.
I wrote it down.
And feel free to
right
invite me, interrupt me if you have those things and you feel it's a worthwhile diversion.
Well, thank you.
Here's the challenge with that in the workplace. We value efficiency probably more than almost any other thing in a workplace, and because efficiency leads to higher profits, it leads to higher productivity, and this kind of can harken back to industrial revolution age metrics of productivity and all the things. Anyhow, what we're talking about feels like a departure from efficiency because it's taking a diversion from getting work done to talk about feelings or emotions or things that even those are hard to say, let's spend a lot of time in that in the workplace, but even who you are as a person and the things that are important to you and how you function best and what brings the most out of you. Those are all conversations that are easy to draw the line from. If we take a little bit of time up front to have these conversations, we're actually going to be more efficient and we're going to not have so many blockers to our productivity. Brett and I like to say this, and it's a term that I've adopted from some of my time in the UX, user experience design space, which is start slow to finish fast. And essentially that means if you take the time up front to understand the real problem that you're solving, to invest in your people the right way, to put the systems in place that empower you to do things well, you're going to finish with much more efficiency, things are going to click in the right way because you're not having to go back and keep doing things over and over again the wrong way. And there's limits to that, right? You don't want to spend forever in the preparation phase. I think I saw this chart, one of my first jobs ever. It was a software development company. And it was this chart of like doing things the manual way. And it was this real blocky, like stepward up.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is essentially like you're learning the pattern, you're doing it over and over again. And then it's like doing things how a developer would do it. And it's this flat line of 0 until you build the code in such a way that it can do it for you. And then all of a sudden you spike way up here because you've put the foundations in place well. I don't know if that will translate well to a podcast or not, but
no, I hear you.
The audio version, my hand motions may not.
James will make a graph.
All right. But essentially it's the same thing that we're talking about. If you take a little bit of time in the beginning to not just jump in and start doing things, and you invest in your people and you learn who's their individual strengths, and you take the time to do a lot of the things that we're talking about, not at the cost of getting the real work done, but in support of getting the work done, you find so many things work easier. Your job as a leader gets so much better.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of assumption when a new team gets together or a new boss comes in. He assumes like everybody just do your job.
Totally. Yeah.
What's the problem? But then Joe and his wife are having trouble at home, and he comes to work just razzled.
Yeah.
So and so has an alcohol problem, and they're trying to cope with that, and somebody else is, their loved one just died, and but we can't talk about that when we come to work.
This is one of the 4 concepts that I believe are most important to creating a healthy culture. And I'm sure Inspirity's done a lot of work on this, so please, I invite your opinion here as well.
Well, I think it's cool that we're both working in the same space.
Right?
And so there's a lot of connection there.
Sorry.
No,
continue.
That's all I was going to say.
One thing I do love about this, because this is maybe the most important thing that I think I want to communicate to a workplace, is the idea of winning and losing inevitably means that you have to be in competition with other people, that it's a zero-sum game. There's only so many resources, and if you don't get all of them and someone else does, you're losing, right? I actually think that the businesses of the future are the ones who are going to be so focused on delivering their mission that they don't care about the competition, because if the competition helps their mission get executed better, that's great.
Competition within a
here's a great example, and this comes from a book called Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux. I think you would freaking love it.
Say it again.
It's beautiful. It's called Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux, who's a French, I assume, based on the name. Essentially, the core concept is... so it gives this example of an organization called Bertzorg. They're a healthcare organization in the Netherlands. They essentially revolutionized like in-home nurse care by creating these empowered pods of nurses that, instead of being dictated from the top down, here's all the things you're going to have to do, they allow this small team of caretakers to go into a community in a community, which could be, like a senior living community, or it could be like an actual village, whatever it might be, and determine the best care plans and protocols for their community and how they're going to structure and serve those needs within the framework of a set of resources that this company provides. Wow. So they have become the most successful healthcare organization in the Netherlands because of this transformative way of doing things, and it's very empowering.
Decentralized
leadership in a lot of ways. But they also host their competitors to train them how they do this work so well, because what they actually care about is the people being served in their communities better. And if they can get their competitors to do that, great. And by doing that, they actually get more business, and they actually get more of the best healthcare providers that want to come work for them. And so it feels counter. This is actually something that happens in almost every instance of the transformation that I feel like I want to work with people to achieve. I feel like this is the thread. The counterintuitive approach is almost always the one that we need, the one that feels different than our natural way of doing things. I was just out yesterday riding horses with my girlfriend. Freaking loves horses, so we took them on a little trail ride.
Thanks for the invite. I mean, I know
yeah, well, we'll get there. We're not, we're still developing our bridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that I want to like being the third wheel, but go ahead.
Well, you would actually have a lot of, this may be a forthcoming invite. Yeah, at least, you know what? You and your wife should come out to the farm. She has this whole like farm experience. She has an Airbnb out there. I'll
sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Anyhow, so you're out there riding on these horses, and I'm not great. I'm still a beginner. We have a trainer that we're working with who's teaching us things. So what happens if the horse that you're on starts to kind of get up and they're getting a little testy, and the thing that that I feel I should do is clinch tighter and hold on more and pull back on the reins, and that only spins them up higher and higher. And what you have to do is you actually get in your own self and calm your emotions, and when you settle, they settle, and you almost have to release the tension and let go. But it feels backwards. It feels like by doing this, that horse is going to take off and run. And this is a situationally applied insight, but I've lost my train. Essentially, the counterintuitive approach, and then tying that back to what were we just chatting about in the workplace. Transforming organizations, allowing, teaching your competitors, right? So you teach your competitors your methods, and you think, well, that's a dumb business decision. It's very counterintuitive.
It is counterintuitive.
But what it does is it establishes you as the authority. It establishes you as the standard that people want to reach. It establishes you as the most visible provider of great service to those who need it.
Well, and talk about confidence and vulnerability. It's vulnerable because what if they do better than we do?
Right.
What if they take off and
they steal our business?
What if you have to do better than them again?
Right. Yeah.
It creates a friendly competition.
But there's confidence in your purpose. It's like, well, this is the higher calling is not our pocketbook.
Correct.
Of course, you got to think about investors if you're public, but still,
correct.
Our higher calling is making sure that these people are getting the care in the Netherlands. The Netherlands, is that where it is?
It's the Netherlands, yeah.
That they need. Our company has, it describes the culture of that business.
Exactly.
And who would not love to work at a company that is such others-oriented?
So you get the best providers by adopting this person.
Yeah, because it's the standard of working there. The behavior is being others oriented. That's one thing our company has. Insperity has been around since '86.
Yeah,
and we started as a people. It was two guys. I love these kind of stories. Two guys with a desk and a telephone and a living room. That's how they started.
That's great.
And they were failed entrepreneurs. Paul Sravati and a couple other guys, and 5 or 6 times, which is a common story, right? And they wanted to try one more time with this idea and went to their wives. I'm probably messing this.
We get the gist.
Paul Sravati gave me a call and straightened me up. I'm sure. Go to the wives and say, hey, let us try one more time. And they try one more time, and then they developed what they want their culture to be before they decided what they wanted, what product they were going to have. And even, that was 40 years ago. And even in the last year or so, we have just been morphing into this me to we mentality. And where
elaborate on that just a little bit.
Well, like for example, we have 100 or so, a little over 100 sales offices all around the country.
Okay.
And there's just heavy competition, which can be fun.
Sure.
And there's still fun competition.
Yeah.
But it's different now. We've had times where this past summer where you almost didn't know which office you worked in.
Wow.
I might be exaggerating a little bit.
This was your experience, though.
But it was all of our experiences, because on my team, for the summer consisted of people from like 3 different offices.
Oh,
and
wow.
we were working together as a team, and we would get bonuses based on our activity and our performance.
Okay.
Not my office, but our team.
Mm.
So it just kind of developed
you
this,
together.
and now I got to know more people on these other offices.
Yeah.
And when I have I'm working on accounts with people in different offices more, and it's just a me to a we mentality.
Mm.
But you gave that example, and I'm thinking, well, you know, how would we help our competitors? It's just how did you put it? Sometimes the most counterintuitive thinking is the way to go.
Well, it's the whole rising tide lifts all ships
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And if it, you know,
But you also have to be in the same sandbox with people who want to play in that
Correct.
in that type of environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're going up against a competitor who's not going to play that way, then
Yeah.
you're out of
well,
luck.
vulnerability is you're always open to.
But you
getting
still
the
have to be
worst
better.
from,
you know?
from,
Yeah.
from somebody else.
You have to either provide a better service for a better price, or you know,
But
a better product.
But I think going back to the first thing we talked about, and we'll talk about men because we're men in here, right?
One would hope.
Yep.
I mean, I do have long hair, but that's allowed.
As long as
We're just jealous. I mean,
Yeah, fair. Uh-huh.
I would take it if I could. I'd grow it back.
I'm just it's still brown.
It's starting to turn. I'll tell you what.
Mine was gray. I had a girl 17 years old girl in algebra class sit behind me picking gray hairs out the back.
No, really.
Yeah.
The fortunate thing is it's like all gray now, so it looks almost like you've hit that point of distinguishment where
I
your
earned.
opinions matter way more.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Chad's talking. Everybody.
They may
listens.
way
Yeah,
matter,
yeah,
but
yeah.
when people dig into them, they're like, all right,
But
squirrel.
anyway, we're men.
Yeah, we're men.
We are men, and it takes such a level of confidence in our. There's something else. Okay, let me go back to something
Yes,
else you
please.
did.
Yep.
You said you were divorced
Mm.
and you were going through these hard times,
Mm-hmm.
but then you became self-aware. There was introspection,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, to me, that's a measure of a man,
Mm.
of someone who is willing to inspect self and go, where did I go wrong?
Yeah.
You know, Jocko Willink and Leif Bateman wrote a book called Extreme Ownership.
I have had it in my library. Continue.
It's I had coffee with Leif several months ago, and you know, when they talk about taking ownership, I mean they really mean that.
Mm.
And when you think of somebody, you know, obviously when you think of a Navy SEAL, you think of him. I mean, look at Jocko. He looks like a man.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man, but,
Yeah.
but he looks like a.
He has the quintessential look of the muscles and the.
And Leif Bateman sounds like Batman when he talks.
Yeah, those audiobooks I listened to both of them. They were
You know, but
gruff.
Yeah.
Both of them.
but they do not personify the kind of man that Hollywood puts up as this is the standard of man, because and what I mean by that is because they are vulnerable and go, that was my fault.
Yeah.
I take ownership of my whole team just screwed up, but that was obviously it was my fault because you didn't realize what my instructions were. I didn't make myself clear enough, or whatever it was. That takes vulnerability and confidence. That builds trust.
Yeah.
You know, and decentralizing ownership, decentralizing leadership, empowering. But I was impressed with you that you went straight to self-inspection. Why did you go that route? Because many other guys will just blame others.
Yeah.
It's a good question, and I don't know if I have a clear answer to it.
It's okay if you don't.
Some of it could actually be rooted in some of the things I had to unlearn. So essentially, it could be my unhealthy coping mechanisms that caused me to take over ownership. So I'll talk about that one, and then I'll talk about the other part of value of who I want to be. So one of the biggest things I learned about myself through this process of, diving into therapy and learning about myself through the process of divorce was I want to be in control more than anything. I think a lot of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is in a situation where something might have gone wrong, I'm going to look for my role and part in it because that means I'm more in control of it not happening again in the future. So there's a part of me trying to be safe and a part of me trying to be in control that led to this behavior of, well, I'm going to look at myself so I don't have to ever go through a divorce again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in that space, I deeply connected to this idea of who is the man I want to be. And the man that I want to be is one that takes ownership, is the one who says, I'm messed up in this way, and it's okay for me to fail because I'm going to use this as an opportunity to not hurt people again or to not even divert from, another thing that I have a tendency to do sometimes is I'll filter my behavior through how I perceive others are going to receive it, right? So I'm constantly others focused, and what that means is I'm not actually me. And so this idea of taking extreme ownership or taking ownership from my part in the breakdown of a relationship, it was a necessary part of discovering who I actually am too. And this gets into deep stuff around identity, and that can take you into a spiritual place with your relationship with God that is necessary and important to go. And I don't even know if we have time to go there, but it is that idea of I have to be able to take ownership so that I can find out exactly who I am. Because if I'm not 100% sure who I am, I'm living as a pretender or as a performer is a better word to the outside world based on how they think that I want them to behave, how I think they want me to behave.
So let's go there. What identity and all of that? Can you dig into that? Elaborate?
I think that our disconnection from who we are is probably the most common source of pain in our lives.
Our disconnection
from who we are.
Huh.
Now, if you ascribe to a biblical ideology, you have an easy answer. I'm a child of God. I'm loved. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Rarely do any of us actually live from that place, right? So we talked about this really briefly the other day. The idea of surrender is common in almost every world religion that you look at. The idea of, in the Bible, it would be called the death to self. In, I believe it's Hinduism, it's the idea of connecting to the Atman, which is like a higher self. It's the ability to move past whatever word you want to put on it, your own ego, your own flesh, your own sin nature, your own whatever you want to talk about it as. And all of those things are a misconstrued sense of identity. They are who you have constructed yourself to be to survive in this world. And this, oh God, what a tie back. It's the essence of why you just are in survival mode instead of thriving. And there are going to be situations, I'm fully confident of this throughout my entire life, where I'm going to continue to live from those places because they are imprinted deeply in my coping mechanisms of staying alive, even if it may not actually be that urgent. And yet I'm learning through every single one of them how to connect deeper into who I actually am. And I think this is where, even if you don't believe in a biblical perspective, it's valuable to acknowledge the value of humanity. And this is where you think about so many of the movements throughout history where we have been brutalizing. I heard in the last episode that you shared with me about the fellow from the Congo who was talking about the genocide in Rwanda, right? So many genocides, just absolute utter destructions of other humanity. Even you think about slavery, it all comes back to this idea of you are less than human. You are not fully valuable enough to be considered at my level of humanity. It's this idea of a scorecard where I am in superiority to you. And that's probably been one of the hardest things to unwrite for myself when I connect to my identity, is this idea of superiority and keeping this mental scorecard running all the time. And I always want to be on top. I always want to be the one who's giving more, who's doing more, who's achieving more than the other person that I'm in relationship with. And I tell you what, that is the most destructive way to be in relationship, because you're never ever really able to be present with someone. You're never really fully able to be vulnerable and to say, here's the places I'm messing up, and take ownership of those, because you always have to keep yourself on top of that scorecard.
Yeah.
Are you talking about also with friendships?
Friendships, romantic relationships, work relationships, any of them. This is probably one of the hardest things I've had to unwrite. And, it comes from if you even go back to like psychological theory, it's all related to how I was raised. And I can know all of those things and rewrite a lot of those stories, and some of the patterns are still there. I've diverted somewhat from the concept of identity.
No, that's fine.
I don't know if you want to bring us back in any direction there.
No, I like where it's going.
Yeah.
So how has when did you trust Christ as your Savior?
I would say there's been a lot of moments in my life where I would say that I have accepted the love of Christ in my life, but there was probably a salient moment when I was 4 or 5 years old that I remember, saying the prayer for the first time. And I tell you, when I felt the real power of God for the first time was when I was 16. And this is not a story that I've actually ever shared publicly. So I'm not even sure if it's relevant here.
Well, if you change your mind, you want me to cut it out, let me know.
Okay.
I always like when people start off with that. I've never said this before.
Those are usually the stories that break chains for the people who are watching.
All right.
Go for it, man.
I was driving in a car. I was the first one of my friend group to drive, so I had about 7 people in this 5-passenger car. We were really crammed in there. We'd gone to a birthday party. And at the end of the party, I was dropping people off. And we got down to 2 of us left in the vehicle. And it was my friend in the passenger seat and my friend behind us in the center. And we'd kind of just been cutting up and goofing off all night, talking about the party and, being whatever, 16-year-olds. And the conversation shifted. And it shifted in a way that's not fully understandable or why it would have led to the events that happened next. But we started talking about just like, what would it actually feel like if you fully felt God, the love of God, with no filter and no... And I tell you what, sometimes the things you invite in. So we pull into my friend's driveway, and the only way that I can describe what happened next was the most encompassing, real, tangible feeling of pure, unadulterated love filled this car, and all 3 of us were on the floor. I put the car in park, and I was on the concrete, sobbing my eyes out, because that was the only emotion that would come. It wasn't out of sadness. It was out of this over
ecstasy.
It was an ecstasy. That's great. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it's a long story, and I'm not going to go into the full details, but it went on for a couple of hours, and there was a friend of ours in China who just so happened to not to get off of a train that crashed the next stop due to some of the prayer and intercession that was happening this night. It was wild stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
But that was the first time that I can say that I felt God. And I felt that sense of smallness that you feel when you're in awe, when you know I'm a part of something amazing and beautiful, and there will probably never be a time in my life when I don't have a expanded understanding of love because of that experience.
Wow.
And an expanded understanding of the beauty of being alive and who I am and the power that I have access to.
It shaped you.
It shaped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is how has that experience, man, there's a lot of ways we can go from there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How has, name one or two ways that has given you a power that made you thrive, not just survive?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That you could teach somebody else, you know.
Ooh, well, that takes the question in a different direction. You know, they say in any experience, any situation, the only control that you have is how you react to things, how you respond to things. And I believe that's true. And I've lived my whole life probably because of this experience, knowing whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. I have this deep, deep sense of confidence that I can have the most atrocious things happen to me in my world externally, and I'm going to be okay.
Wow.
It's the Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, put in a concentration camp, having god-awful things done to him, and coming through that experience saying, I found meaning in it. And that's taken, maybe without having been tested, right? I haven't had super heinous things done to me, so take that with a grain of salt. But how I would give that to someone else, I don't know. I really don't know. That's a question I have to think about.
We were talking about that phrase, you don't know what you don't know. I've been trying to build a podcast series around it for everybody to participate in who wants to do an episode regarding, put it on a playlist but it kind of brings it back to, you don't know what you don't know. And what you know and what you've learned from that is what you would teach people to hopefully avoid the pitfalls that you have and you learned from. And that's kind of what he's, I think, trying to bring out from that is what kind of wisdom can you pass on to somebody that you learned in your worst situations that you've thrived from now and not just survived from.
That's a really good way to put it. I think even in that situation, one thing I can think back to is the experiences that you open yourself up to and invite in are probably going to happen. It's where your mind is, there your heart will be also. Is that the phrase? Is that the phrase? I don't know. The things that you put your thoughts on, the stories you tell yourself, and this is a big one, right? And this is something that I love working with people on. It's what are the stories that you're telling yourself? Because every day you go throughout the world and you're telling yourself stories about something. A great example I like to give on this is, let's say that you are walking down the street and you see someone, maybe like a black person coming down the street on the other side, and it's late at night and they're wearing a hoodie. Okay, you have been conditioned by some sort of whatever news or something you heard in society to tell yourself a story about that situation and that person coming down the opposite side of the street. And whether it's true or not, you're going to react to that story. And oftentimes, it's not true, and we actually prevent ourselves from showing love to someone who needs it because we operate out of this story of fear that we've found, and so in that case, that's the root of a lot of racism. It's the root of a lot of isms, is the stories that you craft for yourself about who someone else is or another. So one thing that I found incredibly valuable in my own life is becoming aware of the stories I'm telling myself. And it relates in some ways to that experience, because the story I had told myself for my whole life is, well, God's this intangible being that's out there, and yeah, he probably cares about us, but like, people don't actually fully experience the power of God today. Like, that's like, miracles were a thing of the past and whatever.
Right.
And my understanding of who God is has evolved tremendously since that time. But I still have learned, what is the story I'm telling myself about this situation? Because if I can become aware of that story, I can become aware, I can ask myself the question, is it true? And when you can combine those two things, you unlock a totally new way of living your life, because you're no longer operating out of your default patterns. You're no longer operating out of, someone has conditioned me, or society has told me, or religion has told me that these are the way things are done. You get to draw awareness to, well, I believe that that's the way things are done, but why? And is that true? And this is what I have a story of what will happen on the other side of this thing, but I haven't actually tested that. So it's, I guess that's one thing that I love to help draw people into, is awareness of the stories that they're telling themselves. There's a lot of power there.
I think it's huge.
Yeah.
And what kind of pulling all of this together, you had an experience where you and your friends were talking about what it would be like to experience just the full force, no bars hold, nothing holding back, love of God.
And we didn't ask for anything in particular. We didn't do some incantation to call it in. It was just like, okay, here you go.
And that has brought you to, how long ago was that? I don't know how you
I was
are.
16. I am now 37, so it was almost a little over 20 years ago. Yeah.
Has brought you to a place of confidence and vulnerability and strength and empowerment, just knowing that God loves you no matter what.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds trivial, because we tell people in church and we sing the songs and all of that God loves you, but just the fact, just to know that we are loved by the Almighty God has transformed your life. And I think if men, even in the workplace, especially in the workplace, if men would know how much God loves them, and women know how much God loves them, how could that transform a work environment where there's, the jealousies are gone? I don't need to be jealous because God loves me. How He loves. There's trust built. There's ability to initiate disagreement and healthy conflict because there's trust there. Because if God loves me and God loves you, then I'm going to love you.
Yep.
And then there's, when you have better disagreement, there's better buy-in and innovation, and when there's better buy-in, you have better productivity. And it sounds like that's, that is a flavor that you and Brett bring to the workplace. That's why I think it's, you may not go out to, you may not work up a seminar topic on how much God loves everyone here.
Right.
But you bring that sense of love and acceptance and hope to workplaces that.
That goes back to the whole share the gospel and use words when necessary.
Yeah.
If you're just living like a Christ follower, you don't have to preach the gospel to people.
You can say the gospel in 10 words. It's from 1 Corinthians 15. Christ died for our sins and rose from the dead. That's the gospel right there in 10 words. And placing your trust in Him alone and not yourself, He gives you His everlasting life. That was more than 10 words, but Christ died for our sin, rose from the dead. That's the gospel in 10 words.
Love it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Well, man, anything else you want to?
There's about 1,000 different directions we could go with that, but I think that's a great place to settle it down. I appreciate you.
Well, thanks for the conversation.
It's helped me even sharpen, and we talk about the love of God, and I have invited in a lot of questions for myself about, what does that even mean in our society, and what are the things that I grew up believing actually true? And a lot of people ascribe that as the idea of like deconstructionism, right? It's deconstructing your childhood beliefs and so that you can reconstruct your own. And yeah, this conversation has helped me in that space of the reconstruction to better lean into some clarity, I think, on exactly what those belief systems are.
But it's scary when you come to a point where I need to unlearn some things. Because I need to relearn something that is more accurate.
Yeah.
Right.
Learn truth.
I think I told you about this, maybe not, when we chat. Do you know who Richard Rohr is? He's a Franciscan friar, father, priest, whatever the title is, and he does a lot of writing. A lot of his content is actually kind of in the space of universalism, which would be essentially like, how do the belief systems of the world actually relate to the teachings of Jesus? But regardless, he wrote this book called The Wisdom Pattern, in which he identified most of the world goes through this pattern. Most humanity goes through this pattern, from order to disorder to reorder. Exactly what you said. You have to allow the disorder. You have to allow yourself to say, some of the ways I was doing things in the past are wrong, in order to get to that place of reorder and build up the new you that you want to be in. And to allow that is hard. And that's in some ways what we're talking about here. Whether it be a workplace, whether it be yourself, whether it be the church, whether it be your own belief systems and your relationships. It's continually allowing yourself.
You have to unprogram, what you've learned and believed about yourself. And for me, it was 40 years. 40 years of believing things that weren't true about me.
Yeah.
Did you unprogram and reprogram by yourself?
Yeah, I didn't go to AA or anything.
Did you have anybody in your life that kind of helped walk with you along those lines, or was it all isolated?
For the first few months, it was just me and my wife, who I really, she kept me accountable.
Yeah.
So you had your wife,
somebody who I could talk to and trust, and somebody who, knew everything about me. At that point, she knew everything about me. But at first, I didn't want to. Like when you asked how open I was about it, I'm wide open now, but at first I didn't want to be at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because of my work. I own a business, and I didn't want to run people off who might think, well, he's not trustworthy. He's not. But I've always been trustworthy. I've always, I'm always on time or early. I always overperform and
there's this fear of
over deliver. When you just build that kind of relationship and trust with your clients, but I was concerned about losing the clients I had and not being able to gain new ones. And that was just more fear of me. That was just the devil saying, you can't tell anybody your story. It's not going to help anybody. It's going to hurt you. And so that's the kind of framework I had in my mind for the first few months. And then, if you ever learned about SPECT scans and your brain reforming from the neurotransmitters get broken and fried over time, depending on what kind of drug use or alcohol use, it's different. Well, there's holes in your brain, and over the first 90 days of sobriety, they start to reform new neurotransmitters, new neural pathways, and the holes begin to fill in, and that's
making
how,
a whole
that's
new
how
brain.
the whole
Oh wow.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
neuroplasticity works.
I did not.
It reformats your thinking process, but you have to be consistent with it, which is where Atomic Habits comes in.
Yeah.
Because if you're not consistent with it over a daily basis, an hourly basis even, then your brain won't remap into the new you.
At it.
You have to continue, and that's what when everybody's like, you have to do the work, you have to put in the work, you put in the work to be sober. What does that mean?
Yeah, what is that?
And people don't understand what it means. Well, yes, you have to go to the gym for one, because your body and your brain are connected. Yeah. Your body, your brain, and your soul are all connected. All three. There's a reason there's a Trinity, and there's a reason there's the three things in your body that are all connected. And if one of them's out of whack, the other two try to compensate for the one being out of whack. Ooh. If two are out of whack and one's trying to compensate, then you're overcompensating that one. You can't physically work out all of your mental and dietal problems. Yeah. You have to your body and your brain and your soul, and you have to be in the Word. You have to be around people who are going to encourage you, and not people who are going to bring you down. And sometimes that means you have to end friendships that you've had for a long time.
Yeah.
And you just never really, you have to love them from a distance, is what my wife always says. And sometimes it just means if you want to be the new you have to do that work. And it's all three of those things. You have to read and learn. You have to physically do the work so that your body and your brain are exhausted and you can shut it down and go to sleep. You have to get good sleep. People don't even understand until they really start digging into it. And
it's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Did you, when you went through that self-aware time, were you by yourself, or you had other people, somebody else walking with you, or?
That was one of the biggest things I learned, is how to deepen my male friendships.
Yeah.
I realized I had almost secluded myself into the marriage exclusively. And I had people that were, I would call friends, but there was a level of depth, vulnerability, transparency that I could not go to.
Right.
And that was one of the most healing things for me in that time, was to lean into my, and I had a friend who had lost his wife to a car wreck about a year and a half prior, and he and I bonded deeply over that ability to share grief and still build each other up, and and we also liked woodworking, right? So we're building tables and cutting trees and like literally pulling trees out of rivers to go mill them down and create. And it's like we're doing this like hard stuff together, and the physical.
Yeah, we're meant to do that stuff. We're not meant to sit at home and play video games and watch TV all day.
Right. Yeah. And allowing that space of someone else to chime into your world is huge.
Yeah.
Well, brother, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for inviting me in. This was a fun.
It's great.
You mentioned it'd be cool to just like sit around the fire and have a chat, and I agree. I feel like we could have about 100 different chats. The tentacles of this conversation continuing.
I have a fire pit.
Maybe come back.
I have a fire pit in my backyard that I'm still working on it, but it's almost done.
All right.
But I'm usually there.
Time for winter.
Well, I'm usually there at 5:30 in the morning with coffee, and if I'm not at the gym with Troy Weiser. Troy works for the Austin Police Department.
Oh, okay.
And
so he's pushing you.
Bomb tech. He looks like we call him the Viking.
He's big beard, long hair.
He could if he had he's a white dude with a mohawk.
Oh wow!
Blind mohawk and dreadlocks.
Nice.
Whoa, that's a look.
So yeah, it looks like he.
That's actually quite impressive.
That's Troy. Loves Jesus, man. This guy is he's a big part of my life. But part of the big part is he kicks my butt in the gym. Man, he just
sounds like we need to get him in on a podcast episode.
So yeah, we should.
I want to hear some stories.
But when I'm not in the gym with Troy, I'm a lot of times out in my fire pit. So you're always welcome. 5:30 a.m.
Tell you what. I might hit one of those
maybe
in a month or something.
Maybe I'll do one in the evening too. Yeah.
Gets cool out. It'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
all right, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
That was great.
It was fun.